Everyone knows about San Andreas. From your mother, to your father, to your grandma, you name it, they've heard of it. Okay, maybe not. But this is to date the most sold PlayStation 2 game, selling around 17.3 million copies, beating the predecessors being GTA 3 and Vice City in sales by millions. If you've ever played games enough, or currently do, you've at least heard of it is my point, and for good reason. Not just any game can break sales records for no reason. So how did San Andreas do it? In this video, I'll be going over everything that San Andreas did right, and what made it so popular amongst the community. I'll cover the history behind the game before going into how good the story was, the music choice for the game, and key features that made the game so ahead of its time, and so much more. I hope you enjoy the video, and let's get started. So, let's start with the history. San Andreas was released on the 26th of October of 2004, which was just before I was born, which is scary to think about, and took just under 2 years to be developed by a team of around 50 people, give or take. This is double the time it took to create Vice City, its predecessor. So why was this? Well, other than there being more to do and the map being larger and in more detail, there were lots of changes made up to the release of the game, which I'll go over now, starting with the Grove Street family themselves. You, CJ, are part of a gang, along with Big Smoke, Ryder, and Sweet, and some others. However, the gang wasn't going to be called Grove Street Families. Initially, it was going to be called Orange Grove Family. You can even go to a tattoo parlor in-game that says Orange Grove Families, which was an Easter egg? Or either that, or they forgot to remove it. But to be honest, Grove Street Families sounds so much better. Not only that, but as the name suggests, the gang would have worn orange instead of green, as they do in the final release of the game. I'm not sure which I prefer, but the green definitely is iconic. Not only that, but the word grove just reminds me of green. Not really sure why. Maybe because of clove, like the plant? Strange. I don't know why. However, to be a proper gang, you need to have proper guns, which San Andreas has plenty of, totaling to around 38 usable weapons in-game. But how were these originally designed, and were there changes made? Well, lots of guns that were originally made for the game made it into the final product, but were changed. Let me explain. You see, initially, the AK-47 looked something like this, compared to how it looks in the final version of the game, and the micro SMG looked like this, compared to this, how it looks now. There was also a spiked baseball bat, a shovel, a Glock of some description, and so many more. Some of these older models of the weapons do actually look better in my opinion, but I assume they were changed to fit the game's overall aesthetic and to just fit in more. If they looked too out of place, they would look janky and ruin the immersion. Every little thing had to be perfect for the release and had to fit in with the game. Talking about fitting in, the title of the game is Grand Theft Auto, the act of stealing someone else's car without intent of giving it back. And in San Andreas, you'll be doing plenty of that. With over 212 different vehicles in the game, ranging from planes to boats to jetpacks. Really, it's impressive that the development team managed to have such a variety of transport in a game made for the PlayStation 2. In my opinion, the only part where it lacks is the customization of cars, but that's my GTA 5 online talking. The intro to the game has you riding a BMX, but this wasn't the only type of extreme sport, if you will, that the game was originally going to have. At one stage in development, the game was going to have skateboards, which you could use as a weapon and also ride around the city, much like the other Rockstar game known as Bully, which I definitely want to do a video on at some point. It's not known why they removed this, but either it wasn't finished by the time of the game's release, or it wasn't fitting for the setting. However, I think it fits in perfectly around the early stages of the game, when you and the other Grove Street family members are basically broke as fuck. Focusing more on CJ now, similar to Franklin and Chop in GTA 5, CJ was rumored to supposedly have a dog as a companion. However, this wasn't in the final release of the game, which is a shame because I think it would have been a good addition to the character development of him. Not that it's bad in any way. In fact, I think CJ has better character development than any of the previous protagonists, but you have to admit it would have been kind of cool. What else is interesting is the relation between Franklin and CJ. They're related. Okay, not their in-game characters, but Chris Ballard, also known as Young Mally, I think I'm saying that right, and Sean Fontino are cousins. I'm not sure if the fact they're cousins is why Sean got the role of Franklin, but I can imagine it might have had something to do with it. It's not just coincidence. But anyway, that's enough of the backstory behind the game. What about the game itself? Was it actually good? Well, the short answer is yes. However, I'm going to break it into a few segments to make it easier to follow along. To properly explore what made the game so great in motion, I feel the story, the map, the music, the activities, and the overall atmosphere of the game has to be broken down. So that's what I'll do, starting with the music. Now, the reason I'm starting with music is because it's the intro to the game that you first get your initial taste of what San Andreas has to offer. Upon launching the game and skipping the Rockstar logos, you're greeted with pure musical art. The San Andreas theme song was composed by Michael Hunter, who was born in Glasgow in Scotland, and he would go on to create music for GTA 4 as well, and also releasing music under a different alias known as Pablo and Butch Cassidy Sound System. Honestly, the last two games of the franchise being GTA 3 and Vice City, it wasn't an easy task to match their level of expertise, but he did. Michael did more than that, in fact, making arguably the most iconic music for GTA games to date. Even if you prefer different ones, like myself with GTA 4, you have to admit the music for San Andreas is a masterpiece. If you look deeper into this song, you realize how much of an impact it had on people all across the world. A prime example of this is the Mission Pass memes that you see on the internet. Okay, well, not much anymore, but if you go back, you'll see that the music they use is the one from San Andreas. It's not just luck either, the song was chosen by the community for things like this, because of how catchy it was, and how much it managed to paint the picture of the game in its entirety. Moving on to something else now, the story. The story to the game was the best in the GTA franchise to date at the time of its release. The plot was thick, and there was tons of character development. The voice actors were amazing, and everything fitted into place in this world that you were thrown into. No one felt out of place or distant, and it all just worked so perfectly. I won't go over the whole story here, but I'm more talking about what impact the story had on the overall experience. First off, the intro mission to the game has you riding a bicycle through a rival gang's territory known as the Ballers. This is after you encounter a corrupt policeman known as Frank Tenpenny, who is actually voiced by Samuel L. Jackson. All of this leads up to you meeting the Grove Street family, and it's down to you, CJ, to earn their respect. That is essentially the setup to the story, and you go on throughout to find out there's traitors amongst you. You side with a Mexican gang at one point, and it's just done so well. It was by far ahead of its time compared to other games releasing around this period, and it's clear to see why. Now, there are a lot of story missions, 100 in total, and 101 if you count the intro mission. But outside of that, what is there to do? The answer to that question is plenty, with tons of side missions available, and so many activities, such as being a vigilante policeman, or working on a quarry, or even being a paramedic, the owner of a casino, the owner of a nightclub. It's really down to you. No other GTA game had gone this far in depth as San Andreas did with the open world activities, and it made it feel so much more lived in. You, the player, really bonded with the people around you and with CJ himself. I believe they are the main aspects that bring together and create the atmosphere of the game. If you were to ask me what made this game so good, those are the three main things I would think of right away. So combining the music with the story with the characters inside of this massive open world sandbox where you can take the role of crime or opt for a normal job, going to the gym, getting fat eating burgers or at other fast food restaurants. It's really up to you, and gave the game such a sense of freedom that was unheard of anywhere else at the time, and that is what made San Andreas so good. And that's it. That was the reason San Andreas was so good. Moving forward content-wise, I'm gonna stray away from Rockstar games a little, as it's really draining doing a whole franchise, but I'm glad I covered the trilogy at least. In the future, I will do GTA 4 and GTA 5, as well as Bully, as that's one of my favourite games from Rockstar, hands down. But the next video should be on a game known as Risk of Rain 2, and why that game is just so much fun. But to be sure, check on the community tab on my page. I try to keep it updated to show what my next video will be about. If you had any suggestions for games you think I should cover, let me know and I'll try and get it done. And one more thing, I promise. I stream on Twitch currently, but I'm thinking of switching to YouTube, so it's all in one place, and just so I can interact with the community a bit better. So let me know if that would be something you wanted to see. But yeah, other than that, thanks for watching and goodbye.